Start the recording. All right, welcome to Introduction to Automation. This is a very, very short video talking about what I consider pro tips for looking for jobs. This is not unique. These pro tips are not anything that you will only find here at this class, because they're going to see them repeated over and over from a lot of different sources. But I like to kind of reinforce all these other sources and maybe add a little extra spin from a mechatronics technology standpoint. So these are Rob's job search pro tips. And obviously, I've had a pretty successful career, and I've pretty much gotten jobs exactly when I wanted, and usually I got the jobs I headed for strongly, even if I ended up being a low-paid teacher, which I had my reasons for. So here are the 3 pro tips. I'm only going to do 3. I like things in 3s, very old-fashioned that way. Number 1, and I've reinforced this in the assignment as well, always customize your resume. Never use a generic resume and blast it out. Now, I have done that. I've broken pro tip number 1 in the past, but I've only broken it when I'm blasting out my resume to positions that I thought I had a low chance on, but I wanted to do fishing. I want to kind of like spread my chum on the waters and see what fish came up, right? I never sent a resume to a job opportunity that I thought was a really excellent job opportunity. And but I have sent out generic resumes. But I'm telling you, for any job you really want to target, customize your resume for that company. Number 2, do your research. Research heavily for any company where you really want to work there, you think that's an ideal job. And number 3, develop personal contacts. Now, what do I mean by each of these? Pro tip number 1, customize your resume. I'm going to talk about that last. We're going to skip that for now. Pro tip number 2, research your company. What do I mean by that? The basic thing is Google them. Google them and go on LinkedIn and go on Glassdoor and go on any of these websites that look at businesses. But Google will usually find them in these other places. In addition to Google, I will also use DuckDuckGo and Dogpile. These are 2 excellent search engines for finding information about companies. So here I should say, here I'm gonna edit this as I go. Google them or DuckDuckGo or Glassdoor or LinkedIn. All right, so in addition to Googling them, you can do these other 2 search engines. But the bottom line is, what do they sell? When you walk in for an interview, when you talk to anybody on the phone, and you usually have a phone interview before you have an in-person interview, you need to be smart about what they make. The smarter you are, the less they have to explain, the happier they're going to be with you. They're going to go, wow, this kid kind of did a little research. And, most people doing interviews are old people like me. They're not always, but a lot of times they are. And you guys are all pretty much younger than me, or a lot younger than me, as the case may be. So a lot of these old folk think of the people taking, these interviews as kids. So you have to think about it from the perspective of impressing this sort of person that's got gray hair. And they are always impressed by people who've done their research, or almost always impressed. So you have to know what kind of manufacturing they have. In the context of this course, we've talked about different kinds of manufacturing. So if you can connect what they do to something you learned in this course, that's going to give you an advantage when discussing what they do and how you can help them in what they do. Because, and this is the key thing here, can you highlight something in your resume, a skill that you've gotten from this class, from this program, or somewhere else. What skill do you have that overlaps with what they need based on what your understanding of their manufacturing environment is? Another thing about research is learning names. The more familiar you are with names, the better you are at how to approach them. Are they a technical leader? Then they want to hear your technical skills. Are they an HR person? Then they want to hear about your people skills. And HR people usually aren't so good at anything technical at all, so don't try to impress them with the term PLC, because they probably don't know what a PLC is. Now, that's not true for all HR. Some HR are pretty smart about their business, but a lot of them aren't. So learn the names. But don't be creepy. if you Googled the plant manager's name and you learn that he's got 3 dogs and he goes on walks with his dogs, don't be like, hey, I love that picture of you when you're walking your dog on X Street at 7 p.m. Don't do that. That's creepy and weird. Don't do that. Generally, don't Google any personal life of any potential employee at where you're working. It's just bad form. But you should learn about who they are and what their jobs are and what their roles are in the business. That's smart. Other things you can learn are how many open positions do they have? Is this a plant with high turnover? High turnover means that they're firing people a lot, potentially. Or it could be they're growing. They're adding a whole new portion of the business. They're adding a new machine. They're adding a group of new machines. They're growing. So if they have a lot of job openings, it's a good sign, but you got to watch out for the high turnover. And usually you can learn about high turnover, which means they're firing people a lot from Glassdoors, or people are quitting a lot. If people are quitting a lot, it's usually not a great sign for how they treat people. So do your research at Glassdoors to find out how they treat people, and kind of get an idea how many job openings. And if they're a teeny tiny business where there's no real growth opportunity, you should learn that. There's advantages to working for a teeny tiny business, and one of them is everybody. But if that's the case, then you really have to like everybody. You can't find that your one or two bosses are complete idiots, because you might be stuck working for them for years and years and years. If you're working for a big company, it's less critical that you like everybody you meet, because there's more opportunity for growth, or working for a variety of people in the same business, or even moving from one plant location to another plant location, or even moving overseas, which is something that some people like to do. So research your company, learn about the opportunities, get good at this stuff. Pro tip number 3, develop your contacts. If you are already on LinkedIn, great. You probably already are developing contacts based on your skills. And this is not just your business skills. You can also have LinkedIn contacts based on your personal life. And these are hopefully not your buddies who you like to go drinking with. These are your friends who work at businesses that might be similar, who can help you by validating your skills and making contacts through them, where if anyone work in that company, does any of your friends know somebody who works in that company? This sort of connection is critical, and this is how most people get jobs in the world right now. You mostly get jobs of friends or friends of friends. So I'm suggesting that you use your relatives if you have any. My first engineering job, I'm sad to say, was a connection made through my dad. He knew somebody who knew somebody who was looking for somebody, and it kind of came down the pike, and I got the position. Well, I had to interview and prove my skills, but I found the position based on a friend of my dad, and that's the way it rolls sometime. So finally, let's come back to tip number 1, customize your resume. And I wasn't sure what to type here. Obviously, highlight your key skills that business needs All right. And then beyond that, it's just a matter of reading through the resume, thinking about what jobs they have open, and tune it to cut out the stuff that's not important for any of the jobs that they have open, and emphasize the things that they are looking for. And there's a, especially once if you've had a few years of experience, you've probably done a half a dozen different things that you can point to in your resume as a skill set, or as a job opportunity so somewhere you worked. Maybe it was somewhere you worked as an intern. If they have a particular requirement for the skills you developed as an intern, then you might document that internship, put it in your job history. If they don't, well, then you may not. You may just say, I went to school during that time period, and drop that internship out. Because here's the deal, guys. Too long, didn't read. These managers won't read your resume. They'll scan it. Most managers won't read your resume. Most HR people won't read your resume. They won't read it all the way through. They'll scan it. They'll do key search terms. In fact, really lazy HR people, and this is common, unfortunately, don't even read your resume. They don't even pull it up. They have a search engine that pulls up key search terms, and they only look at resumes that match sufficient quantity of those search terms that they're looking for in the resume, and pull them up and use them. And the rest of the resumes that may be submitted to a job position get completely ignored. In fact, of the last 10 years of me looking for work, which has only been a couple times, I had roughly half my resumes, even the ones I tuned, completely ignored. And for some people looking for job openings right now, they can have as many as 80 or 90% of their resumes completely ignored, because HR people in general suck. So that's my end statement. We're going to HR people suck. How about that?